Yay. Okay. So, first of all, let's talk about what the first three steps are the same as for relaxation and meditation. So let's talk about the first three steps. Number one, we
Body
have
stillness.
body stillness. Okay, and then what's next? Breath awareness.
Do you distinguish between, like, at that point, are you doing just anywhere in your body, like breath of the belly, breath?
I do. We can talk about it. We'll go over them in more detail. Like, what does this mean? You know? Yeah,
Okay.
because I do. Yeah, I think you want to keep where you're feeling it, and it's different depending on what. Okay. So breath awareness. What's the next one?
Systematic relaxation.
Yeah. We can call it systematic relaxation. We can call it body scan, or we can call it. I sometimes call it rotation of consciousness. At any rate, you're going through your body and releasing down through the body. And in meditation, a lot of times because you've already done a relaxation, when you come up from meditation, it's much shorter and more abridged. And other times it's not. But we'll say, I like to say rotation of consciousness because it's a little bit like systematic relaxation, and that is what it is too. But like I always feel like when you first start out and you're in body stillness, you're really working with letting go of the stresses in the body. And the rotation of consciousness is more for the mind. It's, you do rest the body too because you bring attention to different body parts, but it's actually kind of something to do with the mind. Okay. Okay. And then what's the next step?
Breath at the nose.
Breath in the nose. Okay, and last, mantra or mental focus. So it doesn't always have to be a mantra, and we use mantras a lot here, but let's put mental focus because then we'll be a little bit more clear when we're talking about all different types of meditation. Okay, so a lot of times what we call this, we have all these nice models, but we call this the refining consciousness pyramid. So here it is. It's bigger on the bottom. And I don't know if you guys can even see the whiteboard, but I have basically a pyramid and all the 5 steps are going up. Okay. So, yeah. So think about like what we're talking about. When you first, what you focus on in relaxation or meditation is going to, you can't just jump from where you are into like a really subtle focus, like we said before. And, your body, the reason why we start with body stillness is because the body is the most apparent thing to people. It's physical. And for a lot of reasons, like, we start out working with movement because we're moving the body, especially breath aligned movements, where we're moving the body with the breath. So inhaling, reaching your arm up, exhaling. People can focus in on that a little easier than even if you just say stand in mountain pose and breathe. Because the breath is more subtle than the body. Does that make sense? So you can do a lot of work in your asana classes with starting to refine people's ability to go inward by connecting, the movement with the breath, or just focusing on different aspects of the body and what you feel like. You know, when we were in the yin class, I said, notice the sensations in your body. You know, I could have been more specific, but I try to get away from, like, my body might not feel the same as your body. So I try to get away from telling people where to feel stuff. But sometimes it's nice to have a guide. You know what I mean? Some things are universal, like, you know, with breathing and shavasana, you do want them to feel in their belly, you know, whatever. But, you know, when we're talking about, bless you, body stillness, the body needs to be somewhat relaxed before you can settle your mind down. So in asana class, we're going to use the breath mind movement, or we're going to use still positions and find the breath within those still positions. But when we're talking about systematic relaxation and meditation, we're needing the body to be still, because we're really going to have to, you know, gather the attention inward, and a still body is more conducive to that when you're getting to that. So usually, you know, our relaxation techniques are done in shavasana. And, you know, if you're thinking just about the body in shavasana, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but what are the things that you might say to bring awareness to the body in shavasana? Just start with the front of the head, relaxing the face, circulate the jaw. Do you do that at the beginning before? That's not your rotation of consciousness. You do it a little bit first, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to feel the body, the weight of the body on the floor. Just feel where it's where you're touching the floor.
Yeah. Sometimes you can do, like, I mean, after practice, you know, the thought is with relaxation techniques, you know, when people first come in, you can't do as much with them because they're really not inward yet. They haven't done their practice. But when it's between, you know, their asana practice and moving towards relaxation, you can talk about feeling the effects of the practice in the body, like notice how they feel more comfortable in their body. A lot of times I'll, you know, feel the touch of your clothes on your skin. Notice, like, what I've been doing this week is, you know, it's chilly outside. Notice the temperature of your body. Are there parts of you that are cold, like your feet? Do they feel a little chilly? Or, you know, are there parts of you that you can feel are warmer? Like a lot of times around the digestive system, it's a little warmer. But just letting them explore their body resting and what it feels like.
Sometimes before that grounding, like what you said, Suzanne, about where the body's touching. Sometimes before that, even I'll do like ground with your ears. So those sounds, those, because then you're still, because you're paying attention. And sometimes that's a nice way to get people to move a little bit and
Inward. Yeah, it is, and especially if it's noisy, you can have them listen to the sounds and then listen to feel their breath, and just then bring a little bit more importance on the breath sound. And that's a nice transition for it. So good, yeah. We talked a lot at HI about, you know, observing the body and noticing how we hold the body together. So, like, there always is a resting amount of tone in the body to hold your bones together. Like when they do surgeries, they have to be very careful because you don't have that, you know, not to hurt you. You know, if you're under anesthesia, I'm saying, because you don't have that protective holding yourself together survival thing going on. So they have to be really careful not to hurt you. So we don't really want to go to that level in Shavasana, but we do want to, you know, most people hold a little tighter than they need to. So, you know, kind of letting go of the way you're holding yourself and let the floor hold you instead. So that's all the things we talk about in body stillness. And we'll look at it closer tomorrow. And even find ways of, maybe, we want to talk about how we modify Shavasana, just giving everyone ideas about how to make people comfortable. And then language when you're there. So what does it look like in a seated position? And this is where we might need to do a little bit of a deeper dive with the seated position. But how do we get the body comfortable there?
Elevate the hips up to the knees, allow the natural curvatures of the back. So resting, and then the head centered over the shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of time in meditation position, and like, we're gonna get to this part of the Yoga Sutra probably tomorrow, but when they're talking about asana, they talk about comfort and stability. And so you have to have the pelvis set up in a way that you're gonna have stability. That is your base, that's your foundation. So the legs have to be folded in a way where you're able to rest on them and they're, you're not wobbly, you feel like you have support. So that's where all of these cushions and props come in. Because a lot of times you can't sit that way. Or sitting on a chair, knowing when they're not going to be able to meditate sitting in a cross-legged position. I'm finding a different position for them. So that's all part of body stillness in a meditation position. And then, you have a lift through the spine, but then it's almost like a fountain where you have this central column of energy that's pretty strong, and then it's relaxing down the sides. Because you want that, definitely, and people ask me all the time, and I'm sure they ask you too, can I just lay down for meditation? And the answer is, yeah, you can, because if you're uncomfortable sitting, what's the point? However, it's good to get comfortable sitting because that's, there's, when we talk about the chakras, we talk about the nadis and the channels, there's, your feet are pressing on certain nadis when you're in the comfortable cross-legged position, more classical ones, and, you're directing energy in a certain pattern through your body. So you do want to sit up if you can. And that's, we're going to see in the Yoga Sutras tomorrow, when they're talking about asana, they are not talking about triangle pose or anything else. They're really just talking about your meditative seated position. But like in the Yoga Sutras, for everything, it's the graduating class. Like they would have had done so much more to even be able to get that far, because those people, aren't comfortable in the seated position. So think about your own meditation practice when you very first started, or maybe it's just the very first start now, and that's okay. How long did it take you until your body was just not an issue at all?
But I do remember going through a phase where my foot would get numb, and it doesn't do that anymore. I must have figured out a way to prop it, just right. So yeah, I have my setup that works for me.
Yeah, but it took you a while to find it.
Yeah, I remember, but honestly, my main struggle was always with my mom. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
getting over that hump of, oh, okay, that's all right. Then.
I remember my lower back was always like, oh, and I remember coming in and I think I asked you, like, please look at me, you see if do I need to go higher? And thank you. And I can't remember. But yeah, we both were like, yeah, this looks fine to me, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So
Did it get
then-
better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, like I had to get in shape to sit.
Yeah. Well, sitting develops the muscles for sitting. That's what I tell people all the time. Sometimes it's like, and I remember Harvard 200 hour, we had to do meditation journal for, the month. And I remember, well, first of all, I was pregnant with Priya. And second of all, my leg, I just kept thinking about my leg, the whole meditation journal, because it was not comfortable. So that's what I wrote about, and There's a little bit of that, but looking back, maybe it wasn't that bad. But I just had to get used to sitting. And after you sit for about 15 minutes every day, your spine just gets used to doing it. It's like, your legs kind of open up over time and your spine sits up straight. So it does happen. And I think the thing is, we all want things to be so immediate. And that actually does take a little time. And when I'm saying, oh, I don't really remember it, it's because it was 20 years ago. And it probably did take me 6 months to get my seated position.
It's taken me a long time.
Yeah.
And it takes patience because you're not comfortable. And it's,
And then you have to also maybe encourage people that it doesn't have to be perfect either. Because a lot of times people think, if I'm not in the perfect position, then I can't go to the next step. And that's why I'm like, sometimes I'm like, well, lay down if you have to. You can still do the concentration exercises that follow. It's just, there's an energetic component to the seated positions that is why you would choose them. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's the same, body stillness is the same for systematic relaxation and meditation, but you're doing different things because they're different. Okay. So breath awareness, I know you talked a lot about. And so when we're talking about diaphragmatic breathing, a lot of times we're sitting up in crocodile or the beginning of class or all the way through the class, which is great. But when you do systematic, most of you are teaching systematic relaxation, maybe not meditation. But for systematic relaxation, one of the biggest things that I see, like not mistakes, but what people can improve upon is they actually don't even do the first 2 steps. They just go into the rotation of consciousness. And it's not like at the beginning, like you said, that it's okay to do like relax around your face, do the a general one. But if you start out with your rotation of consciousness, well, maybe you're going from the head down to the toes and back up to the head. Let's just say that one. And you don't give them time for their body to become still or do diaphragmatic breathing, they will not really be settled there. They won't settle in the same way. Because you didn't give them time to refine their consciousness. So that's the whole point of this, is if you want the triangle to be stable, you've got to spend some time talking about body stillness, talking about breath awareness. In meditation, it's the same thing. We feel the breath around the sides of the waist rather than in the belly. Talks about that, I'm sure. So where would you put pranayama? Do you think you might put it here?
Are you talking about when you're in a meditation?
Yes.
Seated meditation, where would you? For me, I don't know if it's right, but I put it more toward the end.
The breath in the nose.
Yeah, around there. And then I don't do pranayama every day. I go through phases, but it's usually after the rotation of consciousness and, after I've gone to my nose. And I might do, instead of a mantra, I might do alternate nostril or, I don't know. I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah, no, there's definitely ones that are more inward that you might do. You could put some more forceful breath, breathing techniques here, like the Palabadi or Vajrayana or,
Around the breath awareness.
right after breath awareness.
Okay.
Then check in again and start to feel the breath in the nose, or do more meditative pranayamas like the Aharana pranayama or the alternate nostril.
what's a heart?
Aharana is when you go through and you feel like the forehead and take 3 breaths, and then the center of the brain, and then the eyes and the nose. Have you done that?
I did.
You
You had us do it in one of the first sessions, but
We'll do it tonight. Maybe
That
we'll
would
do
be
it tonight. Yeah.
and how do you spell that, please?
AHA RANA.
Is that from our lineage in specific? I just haven't really been.
It is, but it's not particular to our lineage, but our lineage does use it. I mean, these pranayamas have been around for, no one can claim them. Yeah. I don't know anyone else who's doing it right now, but yeah.
So one is, when you pull out the phrase drop in, like, you've heard that before, that's what I think of when you're talking about, like, they don't, people do things first, and then they won't really be
Yes.
able to access, because they haven't like dropped it.
Yeah.
And so I think of like the body structures, the breath awareness, is like dropping in. and
Yes.
then you go from there. Then my other question is, like the breath in the nose, I just find it interesting that it's like layered. That's something that I'll go back to sometimes, so I understand why it's there, but I'll also, that's sometimes how I'll start my breath awareness when maybe it's incorrect, where I'm like, it's not notice the breath. and now it's
Yeah, I wouldn't, the reason why I wouldn't do that is because it's too refined.
Okay.
The touch and the breath, if you're not forcing the breath, if you're just paying attention to the breath in the nose, it's a little refined, and it's not, your breath does pass through your nose, but the mechanics of diaphragmatic breathing fell a little lower. So if you could just let them feel it like there and then shift the attention there, it's a little bit.
See, yeah, the other, I do that for like the body breath awareness, but.
Yeah, it is. So, and some of these, like, moving on, since you've done so much of the breath awareness, the rotation of consciousness and the systematic relaxation, that is the systematic relaxation, like that's what you're doing. So you're doing, there's tense and release. There's the, systematic where you're going from head to toe and back up. There's point to point where you're going from one to the next. But when you do meditation, it's not that usually. You can do like the Harana pranayama is kind of a combination. It could be a body scan because you are going through the body, or if you pay attention to the chakras, it could be kind of like a step towards, it's all, the chakras can also be a mental focus. So it kind of gets a little blurry. But when I do meditation, and if you practice it for a while, oh my gosh, it's more like, okay, hips and legs relax, make sure I'm sitting up straight. All right, relax a little bit more. Find your breath. Now relax your jaw, shoulders. That's it. And then because I've done it so many times, but for your class, it might be a little bit longer, But this rotation of consciousness in meditation is generally not as long. So it's not a systematic. Relax around your skull, soften your face. Like you do not need to do that level of detail with meditation.
So I'm just thinking back to relaxation, systematic. So the whole, like, what I was saying, like relax your face, like when you move down the body, that's the systematic relaxation. I shouldn't be doing that.
Well, yeah. So sometimes I do a little bit of it at the beginning. Like in the beginning, it's just like general attention. So after a yoga class, I'll be like, observe your body, and if there's any more, if you notice any tightness or any more tension that you still have, see if you can let it go, let the floor support.
So I do that, and then I go, but I don't go to the breath until I feel like the whole body.
Yeah, the breath is first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it wrong for all these years.
That's okay.
They still seem relaxed.
They see it, they'll be fine. I'll be fine.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
have been, in my own meditation practice, I still go through these 5 steps in my head.
Good.
And the rotation of consciousness, I still do 61 points.
That's fine.
And I love it. It helps me focus even more.
Well, the Harana pranayama is very similar to 61 points.
Yeah.
So if you did that, it would be like a little mini 61 points in there.
Yeah.
It just depends on, how much time you have. And a lot of times, you know, in HI, and like, especially when we had the hour and a half classes, you would do a 15-minute relaxation, then you would come up and do 10 minutes of meditation. So you wouldn't repeat the whole systematic relaxation when you come back up, where that would be a lot. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna say this real quick, because I don't wanna get off on too much of a tangent. We'll take more of it tomorrow. But, you know, your relaxation techniques, do you remember what limb they correspond to? The trihepara.
Control the senses.
Yeah, relaxing the senses. So, initially, when you lay down, you're letting go of your senses because, well, all but hearing, because you're hearing the voice. But generally, when relaxation techniques were practiced, they weren't guided. You would do them yourself internally. So there wouldn't be a voice, but it's okay. The hearing is the most subtle sense anyways. So, but, you know, if you think about the 5 cognitive senses, you're not smelling anything too much. You're not tasting anything. You're not, you know, the sense of touch settles down after like maybe 30, 60 seconds. You know, you're not hearing when your eyes are closed. So those senses are relaxed, and then your active senses are relaxed. So you're not hopefully going to the bathroom or procreating in yoga class, especially yoga class, I don't know. And then you're not walking around because you're laying down. You're not grasping or manipulating anything with your hands, and you're not talking. So there's 10 senses, those are 10, and then the last sense is the lower mind, which is the manas. So the manas is the interface between the senses and our internal world. Remember, we did all this with that picture that I showed you. We can look at it again. We'll look at it again tomorrow. The model of the mind. Manas. Yeah, manas is just the lower mind. And so the lower mind is, that's it. So used to processing, and I think I have it on the Yoga Sutras in the classroom.
Here it is. It is thing.
Yep. So you see all the senses going in and out of the manas. The manas of the lower mind is considered a sense in yoga. And so when you're relaxing the senses, you need to give the manas something to do, or it won't relax. So what you give it to do is a rotation of consciousness. Okay? So since it's the most subtle sense, you've got to do the other ones first. The reason I'm telling you that is just to make this process make sense. What we're trying to do.
Quick question, not to go on about it, but I was kind of like summarizing it in my mind, and it seems like systemic relaxation is something that's more guided, it's almost like a guided meditation, right? It's more specific, it's instruction, and then you're leading meditation, you're really leading someone to find things for themselves, like create their own space, like a general relaxation, like, oh, I need to relax in my body, as opposed to soften your eyebrows.
Right. Yeah, it's generally like one of the cues that I use in meditation is observe your body and see if there's anything that can be more comfortable. Move in that direction. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds simple, but like that is, at that point, that's more of a practice there. Yeah. So breath in the nose. This is just a way of refining consciousness even more because it's a little bit more subtle. The touch of the breath of the nose is really light. So when you're watching it, it draws the attention in, and it starts to, like, there's a lot of the techniques where we breathe through the nose and we're watching the breath through the nose. And if you've done the Shoka meditation, you are working with a lot of the different chakras in the head. You know, so you're starting to stimulate Agnya chakra or the Talu chakra or what's the Talu chakra? Okay, I'll show you. Okay, so take your tongue and run it along the roof of your mouth from side to side. It's right above there in your head. So you can feel that space. And the reason why we use it is people can't feel it usually faster than they can feel the eyebrow center. So it's like an intro into Tala chakras. And it's in there, your Yoga Sutra book. The first one, Secret of the Yoga Sutra.
TALT.
Yeah, maybe since we already, I'm gonna find it. Okay. Remember either, I remember that he talked about. So just probably more of what we want, but like, remember, when we were talking about the first book of the Yoga Sutra, we were talking about like, in the 130s, they were talking about ways for the mind to be transparent, and one of them was pranayama. So this is the section on pranayama. It is, so 136, nope. 134. Yeah, 134. Transparency of the mind also comes by practicing pranayama that involves forceful exhalation and breath retention. Well, that's okay. We'll get there. We're gonna work on that. But see where I can find about the Tala chakra.
Is breath retention more like Kundalini or?
No, it's not. It's really part of all yoga. Okay, so we're gonna go to page 174. And I'll just read a little bit about it. But yeah, breath retention is just only practice when you really understand and make your diaphragmatic breathing really subtle and effortless. You need to work on diaphragmatic breathing for probably at least like 2 years before you would want to start breath retention. And you want to start breath retention with someone who can look at you and see if you're doing it right. And if you've heard about a Kundalini crisis or anything like that, it usually means you're not doing it correctly. If the technique is not correct, there can be things that you're working with oxygen levels in your brain, and there have been people that have had suicidal thoughts or things like that from practicing pranayama with retention that haven't built the capacity. So you want to work with someone who really understands pranayama and how to build the practice. And there's certain things that you look for, and as you start working with pranayama, you get to see, oh, yeah, they're gonna have a problem with this. This doesn't look right. You know what I mean? So you can, I've worked with, I'll work in private lessons with breath retention with clients and people that have worked with me for a long time. And I'll work in some groups. If I know everyone and I know their capacity, I might work towards it. But that's it. I don't do it in the classes. It's more of a one-on-one. Okay. At the bottom of 174, the vibratory movements. This is one of the, if you see the pranayama where you're combining Bhaskaga with Ujjayi, it looks like this. You might not be able to see online, but it's like, I start closing off the throat. And you focus on the roof of the mouth, and you do it. So that there's a whole visualization that goes along with it, but you're focusing on the vibration at the roof of the mouth. And he is describing this pranayama right now. So the vibratory movement induced by Pratardana, the soft palate, awakens and energizes the brain in general, and the limbic system, the hypothalamus, and pituitary gland in particular. The limbic system, located on the top of the brain system and under the cortex, is directly involved in regulating powerful emotions, such as fear and anger. It also regulates sexual behavior. Thus, feelings of pleasure and the urge for survival are important facets of our limbic system. The limbic system is also responsible for storing and retrieving memories, that's the hippocampus, and plays an important role in regulating a variety of hormones, our sense of exhilaration, and a broad range of activities vital for survival. In the tantra scheme of the chakras, this part of the brain corresponds to Talu chakra, which is assumed in the command center Agya chakra. So we're going to talk a lot about chakras in the next segment, but you know, you have more than one chakra in your head, and it's assumed in Agya chakra. So your Agya chakra, it's kind of part of it, but you know, it's a little bit lower than where the Agya chakra, the main part of the chakra, or the Guru chakra. So the Agya chakra is located in the center of the brain, in from and just above the level space between the eyebrows. There is no practice as effective as Pracharana Vitarana Pranayama for awakening the inherent power of this important part of the brain. So some of these, when you're getting to breath in the nose and you're starting these, more advanced pranayamas, you are starting. And even when you're not doing the advanced pranayamas, even when you're just doing breath in the nose, you're starting to wake up Agya chakra. That's what, following the breath in and out, that's where you're moving your attention to, back and forth. So that's why it's more subtle than your side ways.
So from the center of the mind to the nostril back and forth?
Well, I would say the brain. The mind can be a trigger point for a lot of people. I'm not trying to be too particular, but it is because the mind, you know how they found like molecules of emotion and neurotransmitters everywhere through the body. The mind is everywhere in the body, but the brain is really in your head. So when you're talking about, like, if you want to do the Talu chakra, if you want to inhale from the tip of your nose through your nose to the center of your brain behind your eyes, and exhale back down, that would be, sort of the Talu chakra. And then, you have a sense of like lightness more up towards your cortex, and that's more up.
That makes sense how you describe the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're finding like what we feel and everything, it's all over the place in our body, not just
Yeah.
So it's true. Anyway, so the whole, like, and even all the chakra work that we do, like if you practice Buddha Shuddhi, which we'll learn about next time, Buddha Shuddhi, or anything where you're bringing awareness to the chakras, like Aharana Pranayama, you do, when you're doing that pranayama, which we'll do today, that's can be a meditation. It can be a mental focus, but it's actually, in the sense that we're doing meditation, it's actually preparation. Because I guess we'll move to mental focus now, but like in our tradition, I guess end of the story, mental focus would be when you're having awareness of a chakra and the mantra is vibrating in that chakra. That's your space. So if you went down and felt all the chakras up and down before you did it, that would be a preparation, and then you would settle in to one of them and hear the mantra. But you also don't have to go that far. You could just do your chakras could be your mental focus. Does that make sense? Your breath could actually be your mental focus. You could actually just do these 2 steps for meditation. It wouldn't be as deep. You could actually just do body stillness. Because like mental, like generally the mental focus is what makes the meditation techniques different. So when you're talking about like mindfulness, what do we focus on mindfulness usually? Sometimes the breath, the senses. So we know they're kind of what connects us to the outside world. Really great for beginners, super great for beginners. So you're telling them, hear this thing, or taste this thing, give all of your attention to that. That is your mental focus. It's great because they get the idea of it. It's just not quite as subtle as some of the more internal. Does that make sense? And then what other kinds of meditation have you heard about? What would be the focus?
Candle gazing.
Candle gazing. Let's talk to them. It's actually, yeah, it's another good shot for you. And that is, yeah, but to focus on the candle. And what you do is you have the flame pretty much level with your eyes and you stare at it without blinking for as long as you can until your eyes start to water. Then you close your eyes and there's an after image of the flame at your eyebrow center. Yeah.
It's really different, like, kid, not realizing.
Yeah.
When you stare.
Well, then it's like right there. It's like a thing. I mean, it's actually, it's in your head and then you can focus on it. You can also do it with the like sun rising or sun setting, but don't do it at like an even higher and stuff. They say not to do it on crystal balls. Crystal balls. Don't take crystal struck to that. There's some guidelines in the yoga where it can be opening up things that you're not ready for. I don't know, but they say not to do it. So just do the candle, or I did rising sun for a long time. And that's a beautiful practice. Because you close your eyes and the after image of the sun is right there.
So how do you get that rising sun right below the eye?
Oh, you don't have to have that at the level of your eyes. You just watch it when it's up above the horizon. You just go out and
Did
look
you
at
do
it.
that with the setting sun?
Yeah.
I have the perfect.
There you go. Yeah.
one of those.
And that's really great. I mean, that mental focus is cleansing for your eyes and it's a focus.
That's very interesting, because the neighbor's dog just moved in. I was a little nervous and stuff in this new house, it's so old. It ended up deciding to sit right under the tree on their property where they keep the view from my angle, the sunset, and he watches the sunset. So I wonder if he knew something.
I would say Tropica. Yeah,
Tropic,
Tropica,
spelled TRAT.
AKA.
I remember one that we did in 200 hours, where you would go up, down on each side
Oh,
and
yeah,
make it counting.
yeah.
That was really, that is a great mental focus.
It is. So what she's talking about is, and this is a variation on breath in the nose. You don't use your hands, but you inhale from, like, you just feel one nostril more, and inhale the center of the brain, exhale out. And so you start at 100 and you count backwards.
And you go up,
100,
down, and then you go
99,
forward, right?
98, 97, and on the fourth one you go up to the seven. 96, 95, 94, 93, 92. So you go all the way down, and the idea is if you lose track, you stop for the day or you start over.
Can you describe that again? It's just up, down, and then
It's
the
like
other
up
side.
one nostril to the center and back down the other, so you feel one nostril more, you're not blocking one. And it's every four, after four, you go up to the center. And it ends up being on the sixes and the ones. I don't know. It's not I learned it from the Bihar school. They're like a very classical school. They have books like Asana, Pranayama, Mudra Bandha. Yeah, that's out there. Orange. Yeah. They have the Hatha Yoga Pradikapa. They have some classics, and then this one was in Kundalini Tantra. There's a book called Kundalini Tantra, and it goes through. I really liked it. This was, oh my gosh, this must have been like 20 years ago. I did this. I would do these. There was exercises. First, you woke up Agnya Chakra because you want Agnya Chakra to be open when you're working with the other chakras, so you can experience them with a little bit more clarity. And then there were exercises for each of the chakras. So I would do one exercise a month and then I would paint a picture of the chakra. And then, that was my experiment with that, but that was one for the eyebrow center, the agya, where you were doing that.
So when you go, sorry, to ask, when you go down the center, then you go back up the center to the other side?
No, it's like this. 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91. So every number is an up and down,
Right.
but the sixes and the ones are straight through both
And
nostrils.
they always come.
They also come from the same side.
And then you just go back to.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, you just go back right where you came
Yeah.
from. Okay. Thank you.
So it is a big concentration exercise, to be honest, yeah.
Yes.
So is that, Ida, pink blush?
Yeah, so you're, and so. Yeah. It's a good one, and it does go fast after a while, as fast as your breath goes. If that's your mental focus, that's good. Yeah, that's. Okay, so what else?
Nidra.
Yoga Nidra is a relaxation, it's an advanced relaxation technique. So, you're, you do the rotation of consciousness and you do a couple different ones. So we're gonna go over this really closely. Yeah, and then the mana stays with just the kind of barest attention at your heart center. You can visualize it being there, but it's just really just that's almost like you say, body, sleep, and I'll just keep a little bit of attention. So, any other questions about like mental focus? So can you see how like these 5 steps could be sort of applied to any meditation, any system? You wouldn't maybe
I have-
necessarily, go ahead.
I just have one little question, and you might have already answered this. It's a little bit, not everything is super clear. But so whenever I've looked up rotation of consciousness before, because I think it was like something that, the second group had heard, but I wasn't familiar with yet. So I looked it up and kind of went straight to Yoga Nidra.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
is that understandable?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what we use in Yoga Nidra are rotations of consciousness. They're different types. Like 61
Okay.
points is a type. 75 breath exercise is a type. When we're talking systematic relaxations, like the first 3 here, when we teach usually to our regular classes, when we're teaching how to do relaxation, we usually don't start with 61 points or Yoga Nidra or something more advanced like that. We usually start with the more basic, like, just starting generally the crown of the head and relaxing down through the feet and back up. That's one kind. You can do point-to-point breathing, like from the crown to the feet and the ankles. That's also very similar to 75 breath, but not as structured. So you can just do a couple breaths in each position. Tense and release is another systematic relaxation that a lot of beginners just love because they need to feel where they're tense in order to let it go. So basically, because you're seeing that because all of the systematic relaxations, whether they're beginners or advanced, are going to have that rotation of consciousness. And Yoga Nidra is kind of the most famous. It's almost like in the West, like where this was a big part of yoga. It's almost like we have no Shavasana or we have Yoga Nidra. You know what I mean? But there can also be these like middle things where you have a 10-minute relaxation that's guided, instead of like a lot of times it's just you lay on the floor for a little bit of time. And that's just part of how, but what you could think about is, oh, I can do this at the end of my yoga class. It'll take about 10 minutes. Just do a little body stillness, lead them through breath awareness, and then a more simple rotation of consciousness than yoga nidra.
But all seated.
No, that's lying down. That's lying down.
So Kate, sorry, just not to like hang out here too long, but for guided meditation, so we were talking about that a lot, but I felt like I guess I'm trying to discern between rotation of consciousness and guided meditation now, because like at the end of the practice of Maggie, when she had like what I thought was a chakra sort of guided meditation for the system, but it sounds to me like that also is almost a rotation of consciousness.
It is. It
So-
could be either one. That's
Okay.
where it's tricky. Because you can stop anywhere along this ladder. So you could use, which probably is a harder pranayama, and we'll do next day. You can either use that as your meditation, or you can use it as a preparation, as a rotation of consciousness, so that at the end, you end up at your eyebrow center. You can stay there and either just rest with the awareness of the eyebrow center and a little bit of awareness on your breath, or you can have a mantra. So it could be rotation of consciousness, or you stop there for the end. I feel like I'm making this way more confusing than it is, and I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
You said, did you say the first three are basically like your shavasana?
Yes, that's the relaxation technique, yeah. And then you add the second two for meditation. And maybe you can also explain this, like when your students are laying down at the end of class, it can, if there is no guidance, if there is no talking them through these stages, if we're just letting them rest there and chill, there is a big tendency for them to daydream. Which might be completely pleasant for them, but it's actually not learning the relaxation, the rotation of consciousness. So that's why we talk a little bit, so they don't, like we didn't today, because I didn't talk at all. So whenever I do yin, I don't talk during shavasana, because I'm like, why would I start talking about it? That would be weird. But generally, I always do guided relaxations, because if I don't, I feel like they're not learning the technique of relaxation. They're just kind of. And that's why when you do yoga nidra, or even when you do any relaxation, they say don't fall asleep. Because what they don't want you to do is practice sleep. They want you to practice learning to rotate your consciousness while going into brain waves that are more sleep-like. Yeah. Yeah. The theta states, so you train yourself to be aware during those deeper states. Yeah.
Is it all somehow tied into the space at the end of an exhalation, that just a simple pause before the exhalation comes in, the inhalation, and then there's this little like, temporary, and it feels like this little sleep. And then you drop it, but it's still continuous. I'm not saying to stop and
Yeah.
cut off.
I mean, I guess people experience different things in different ways.
Kumbhaka, there's a word.
Well, Kumbhaka is breath retention, but remember, there's two types of Kumbhaka, obviously, because you can either you exhale and hold your breath out before you inhale, or you can inhale and hold your breath in before you exhale. So the safer of the two, and the one that we do more consistently in class, like think Agnisara or whatever, is the retained exhale. You blow all your breath out, and then you do something, you hold your breath out, and you do something before you take another inhale. That's actually not as dangerous. When we meditate, when we talk about breath retention, it's usually we take an inhale and we hold the breath in for an extended period of time, and then we exhale. And that's where it can be, there is kind of a feeling of suspension there, let's say. I guess that's the best way to say it. That is an anchor for the mind. Remember, transparency of the mind comes from pranayama. So that's why we do it, because it's like there's this veil between our ordinary consciousness, our ordinary everyday consciousness, and our, inner being. And like you have to get through that somehow and hopefully sit on the other side of it for a little while, but it's not, some days it's harder than others. And so we have these little techniques in pranayama.
Hey, do you see there's a name for that when you kind of have that pause at the end of that exhalation?
It's kumbhaka.
I didn't realize this, but full disclosure, have a varsity letter in rifle from, because I was so good at that. Like I missed the musical one year and my mother gave me a hospital and like rifle things. And
Yeah.
my teacher at Boba, they were like, you have to be on the team, but it was something that I found, and later I'm like, oh, I just have, because I was natural with archery too when I was younger, like, there's just something about that pause, and you're just, and that, when you're, I was like, oh, that's something that we're finding, that's what we're finding, like, when you have aim, or you're looking for that moment of complete stillness, and that's cool. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. So, and remember, we're gonna start talking about this in the next one, but like, we are, we do have done so much to explore the world around us. We have scientists that, are geologists, they're weathermen, they're astrophysicists, or we have astronauts, and we have like astronomers and everything like that, but what we're doing as yogis is we're exploring the inner world. So there's just as much as different kinds of titles. There would be infinitely more going inside, we just don't have them because we're not as used to it. So, well, I mean, you could say like doctors and they explore the physical body, but when we're getting into the subtle body, we don't have a lot of, we have these roadmaps from the yogis. And it is cool because, like these yogis, the things that they have felt from their work with the subtle body has then been, before dissections, before you knew what the physical body looked like inside, they had a handle on all this stuff just from their becoming very sensitive. So that's what we're going for. So it's important to just like when we're seeing, we're learning to see the subtle body in our poses by really looking and what do I see? Let me not judge it too fast, but then we do that with our meditation too. And like when we're working with the chakras, which we're going to get into, they are so subtle because you can't. They're to be felt first before you. That's the best way to perceive them. You feel them. That's the best way to start getting used to them. But it's this is more subtle. So you think about your beginner students. You may let them know that there's energy centers, but not everyone's. That is one thing that you're going to find that might surprise you when you work with people. You've been practicing yoga for a long time, so you naturally can do things and you don't maybe even realize you're rude to it. But some people might be like, wait, I can't visualize. I can't feel anything inside. That's why we need this kind of door in for them because it's not something that everyone's well practiced at. And the body is really if you want to know the subtle body, you have to move. You're not going to know where your, heart center is if you don't have really a feeling of where your heart is, what your heart, or you can feel your breath in it. That's why we get the felt sense of breath in a lot of places because you can feel that. And then the prana is within the breath. So what you're really doing is sensing the prana, but you find it through the breath because prana is in the breath. And then you can sense for more kind of a diffused energy rather than just the breath. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is what we're gonna work on okay, how to actually teach it tomorrow. So here's a lot of ideas. And so we're going to break down the parts tomorrow and be like body stillness. Here's what we're doing for that. here's the seated position, here's how you get people comfortable. Like, you know, here's what we need to look at. Breath awareness, I feel like we've done. You know, but maybe we'll do some different beginner for relaxation rotations of consciousness so you get practice. How many of you are, I mean, you know, with the 200-hour here, we did that, but like, are you all familiar with teaching relaxation like this? Yeah, good. So we'll just get maybe a little bit more practice and then have you practice teaching meditation. So that you feel like. Yes.
Like, how about in a group class, like, you know, like nobody even at the end to namaste really ends up listening to even a couple of subtle cues about being postural. It's like, I feel that when they sit up, it's just like, they're ready to kind of go, but in the past few weeks, I've just sort of slowed it down and walked through building their seat and then just breathing for maybe 2 breaths and then.
Well, I mean, you have time, you have an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. I don't do it in my Coffee 2 class because I only have an hour. So I do 10 minutes of relaxation, but I do not, I bring them up and we do something at the Heart Center, but it's not very long. But my other classes during the week, my Coffee 1 and my, it's always 10 minutes of relaxation and 10 minutes of meditation.
But I can't get them to slide a blanket. So they need a lift.
Oh, I have trouble with that too.
What, is there a way around that?
Yeah,
And even if I'm sitting up there on my little throne that I built.
I mean, what you could do is let them be a little uncomfortable for a couple classes and then say, hey, you know what? Like, because you're saying it all the time. Maybe go individually. Like, that's what I do. Like, I see a lot of times people want to use props.
It's just like a laziness, or they think that they're relying on something.
Yeah, they feel like they don't want to need to use it.
And people are afraid to ask for support in life, and they're afraid to ask for it on the mat.
Right.
I agree.
I always tell people, oh, you send pictures of the yogis on the rocks in the Himalayas where they're just sitting there on the rocks. Well, right before the picture, they pull the pillow out from underneath.
Yeah.
So, you know, because almost everyone in there, it's like even the tantrics, like they had, you know, they had different things that they would meditate on, but like they would sit on like skulls of alligators, like you know how they would be like, it's almost like a mula bandha.
So like the pubic bone drops over
Yeah.
the slope of the nose.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so they would have some support there, even though that's kind of weird, but like, you know, they would always talk about sitting on like different things. Yeah. There's always something, because
For real, not in a myth.
no, for real, that's what. Yeah. So, but you know, I have, and it's always the people that like. I feel like they're 75 plus that will not sit on props, and I'm just like, okay, well, maybe. I really like, and so it's a dance. It's like a dance with them because it's like I don't want to hurt their feelings. I want them to enjoy the class, but like, you know, then I'll be like, you know what? Like after, you know, I think you're going to be more comfortable if you sit up a little bit more, even a little higher. You know, just kind of casually. Because they know, they've heard me say it before, so it's not like they haven't heard it.
What are they doing about that in HI if they don't use props?
Everyone has to bring their meditation.
Yeah. See. How we advertise that?
Well, I mean, and what I find is like, if people are really serious about meditation, we know they need to be comfortable. So eventually they will figure out that they need a prop. So we'll do some of that to Mars, looking at, you know, even just basic, like maybe we don't have to go over all of the like Svastikasana and Siddhasana or whatever, but we could look at, okay. Generally, what do you need to do in your basic class to make people go? What are you looking for? What are you seeing? Siddhasana, it's just they're different rearrangements of the legs.
Oh.
in
Yeah, I'd
comfortable
like to
posture.
go through that, because I think I want to rearrange things the way I used to.
Okay,
Actually, because my joints become tighter with the use of yoga and strengthening. So,
good.
I mean,
So we can do a little bit of that, yeah. So my thought is that I would really like to see you teach some of it tomorrow because I feel like that's when you're gonna feel like, oh, I got this. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's almost like it's just like teaching asana class. You just need to be comfortable teaching meditation too. And I would say, like, if you have an hour and 15-minute class, an hour is just pushing it. You can't. I mean, don't think you really want time. But if you have an hour and 15 minutes, you could think about taking the last 15 minutes, even coming up for 5 minutes of meditation, maybe not 10. Get them used to it. Because they like it, and then they all leave happy. Even if you did something wrong and they made it in class, they don't even remember it by that point. So, yeah. Okay, so let's do some meditation. We didn't have time to. Is it really? Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad we went through that because we wanted to, and we will do more of the other teaching tomorrow, but let's do a guided meditation now. And what we're gonna do is I will take you through the 5 steps. And we're gonna do Aharana Pranayama as our pranayama practice. Yes. So like a quick couple minutes.
How long are we gonna meditate some?
Yeah, maybe a half hour, so.
Okay.
Turn off this. Oh, not that.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. Oh my gosh, don't waste this transition. It's a coffee and I'm like, yeah, I broke out my boots the other day. I was like, yeah, right.
Okay, yeah, it's okay to go back to the meditation. There it is.
Okay, we're just waiting for some people to get back from the bathroom.
It's your find sometimes when you're teaching a lot, you kind of go through some of like the more like athletic, so to speak, asanas, and then at the end, you're not really getting into like the cooling down or the opening up or any of that, and then you're like, did not finish, your body did not finish that.
Yes. Yeah, I actually, when I first started teaching, I was really shy on the
Yeah.
seated poses at the end. Like I did
Yeah.
a lot, and I still do a lot of standing poses, but I was really not doing as many.
Right.
And yeah, I had to like make an effort to.
Make sure to get that in.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
do
really
after
wanted
or
to.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's wait for Beth to come back.
Oh, I know.
Yawn asana.
I always plan. I wanted to do artwork when I went in tonight. I'm like, I think I'm not going to do that. I'm really tired. Okay. So one way to think about it really quickly is when you're sitting down, your legs and your hips are the foundation. They are your building, the foundation of your building in your body. And so you want as much of that structure to be on something as possible. So if you're not on the floor, then you might not have that stability that you want. And that's why, like, I'm sitting in Svastikasana right now, and my legs are pretty much down. But if one were up, I could put something underneath it. Or if I wasn't comfortable cross-legged, I could put like blocks or, that's Siddhasana, but you can put things under the hips and you can put things under the legs to make you settle down into the floor and have that support that you need. So that's one way of like looking at your students and seeing, are they stable or not? Well, what are they resting on? Is it solid? So, and then having a lift up through the spine, and a lot of times people kind of sway their back a little bit, so drawing a little tone in the belly, lifting up through the shoulders and the neck. So we'll start here. So go ahead and close your eyes. And feel the parts that are resting towards the floor, your legs and your feet, and see if you can soften a little bit more so that you feel really stable and solid in your foundation. Feel a lift up through your spine, through the crown of your head. Soften your face and your jaw, your shoulders. And as you observe your body, if there's anything you can do to have a little bit more ease, move in that direction. Once your body is comfortable, notice your breath. And as you inhale, you can feel expansion in the sides of your waist. So there's some tone that stays in your belly, just to support your spine in this position. As you inhale, the breath moves out into the sides of your waist. And exhale, release that. go of effort around your breath. So your breath is continuous. And keep moving your attention back to your breath as you move away. Get distracted, just relax. And come back to the feeling of the breath in the body. And then for the rotation of consciousness, we're going to use a heart harmony. So bring your attention to your eyebrow center, right behind center of the forehead. See if you can feel the space there. And as you feel the space there, notice your breathing. And we're going to move through different points in the body. So you're going to feel the space and then notice your breath at every point. So move your attention down to the center of your brain, behind your eyes. Feel that space. Notice your breath. Feel the inside corners of your eye. You almost feel like as you breathe, the breath moves through the inside corners. Move your attention to the tip of the nose and feel the breath as it moves in and out of the nostrils, right at the tip of your nose. Aware of the throat center. to your shoulders and sense for the side of your shoulder sockets. And notice your breath. And down to your upper arms. Down to the insides of your elbows. Your wrists. Palms of your fingertips. Back to the palms of your hands. Sides of your wrists. Back to your elbows. Your upper arms. Shoulders. And throat center. And down to your heart. Center and sense for the feeling there. Notice your breath. Move down to the tip of your sternum. Navel center. Pelvic center. And root center. Back to your pelvic center. Your navel center. Tip of your sternum. Heart center. Throat center. Tip of your nose. Inside corners of your eye. Your brain behind your eyes. And forehead center. Move your attention up to the crown of your head. And as you exhale, exhale down to the pelvic, the base of the pelvis. Inhale back up to the crown of your head. And you can move your attention through the points along the spine, the chakras that we worked on. Just acknowledge them. But really what's more important is you're exhaling down and inhaling up. And you wanna, the natural tendency is to focus on pelvic center and the crown of the head. But you wanna keep your focus on the space in between. And let it be continuous, so no stopping, let one breath go into the next breath. And then the next time you exhale, exhale through the nose. And then back, inhale back up to the center of the brain. So you're just letting the breath move down through the length of your nose. And then feeling the breath up through the length of the nose, center of the brain. Just feel the space in between those two things. We're just gonna move through some alternate nostrils. So you can exhale on one side, inhale on the other 3 times, and then reverse it. Just work with your own pace of your breath. But when you do the alternate nostril, focus on the sensation, the touch of breath inside the nose. As you exhale and as you inhale, start whenever you're ready. And when you're done with 3 on each side, just release your hands and feel the breath in both directions. Follow again as you inhale the breath of the length of the nose, through your eyes into the space behind your eyes. And as you exhale, let the breath move back in. And then the next time you inhale to the center of your brain, hold your attention there at the center of the brain, but let the breath flow easily. Feel the space in the center of the brain. And see if you can move your attention and awareness higher up, right inside the cavity of the forehead cavity, so behind the forehead. Feel that space there. You can Also notice your body breathing as you put the space there. And if you have a mantra or mental focus, you can put it in that space, and if not, just rest in that space. Your attention wanders, just relax and bring it back to the feeling of forehead center. And either your focus or just feeling the space there. And then you can move your attention down to your heart center. And bring your hands around the heart center to namaste. Pull forward to feel any benefits of your practice. So any questions about that? Or you can think about it tonight and bring it tomorrow. If, you know. Oh, good. Nighttime meditation for me is such a different experience. I know. After the whole day, sometimes it's really easy to get like, yeah. So it's really good. Yeah, it's also time on the stuff. This week's yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, and there are. Anytime you meditate, there were times where you just were like, oh, that's bothering me or whatever, and then you wander yourself back right to where you were, and even if you catch that concentration for just a little bit of time, it's not perfect. You know, it doesn't have to be the whole time. You know,
Is that the whole Aparna?
the harana is just when you're breathing, you breathe, and I'm not exact when I teach it because everybody's breath is different. It's 3 breaths at the forehead center, and then you go down, and it's 1 breath all the way down through the arms, back up, down through the chakras, back up. There's 2 at the fingertips, 2 at the root center. But like I said, I don't count when I think it causes more stress when you're fighting it.
Yeah.
That's a harana. Then we went just to breath in the nose. Then we, then we did Samikhrana. We did up and down through the spine. Then we did breath in the nose, and we did the alternate nostril, and then just a little bit more focus, and then resting, and that the mental focus was either the feeling in the space or your mantra.
This makes
sense.
Yeah.
So we said that.
That was, yeah, and I could tell at the 20-minute mark, probably.
If your legs
my
fall
hips
asleep,
started- My hips started hurting. Yeah.
just if your leg falls asleep, take the leg out for a little while.
Yeah.
Back in.
I love that cue for finding the space, not so much, up and down, but really that space in between.
That's the important thing, because we're trying, and that's tricky, because we're trying to get people to sense the prana. And prana is between.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when you do that kind of thing, like point to point or whatever, people are like here or here.
Yeah.
But it's actually not that, it's actually that whole, because prana pulses.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so it's trying to get a feeling or teach people to get a feeling of that pulsation.
Yeah, I love that too.
So, yeah. Okay, well, good job, everyone.
Thank
Maybe
you.
we'll talk about Yoga Sutra tomorrow, a lot. Now,
And it's so esoteric, you said tomorrow, right?
well,
Love Carmen.
I'm gonna try to get through to